just have to remember to actually push the button, which only happens about 50% of the time.
Yay for that. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for being in the 50% and when it does
Right.
happen, because I
Right.
would have forgotten too.
And
Uh,
and I will let me also say that I was looking at Marissa's bio this morning, and if I were to read the entire bio, uh, it would we would all be here for a much longer time. But she has a great
but
bio
yes,
online, and I'm going to put a link to that in the chat for everybody. And just if I was to list out your degrees, Marissa, I mean, you have a degree in French, political science, and then it goes on. I mean, you spent more time in school than I did, and I didn't think anybody that was possible. But you have more degrees than I do, so kudos to you. I
thank you.
also want everybody to know who doesn't already that Marissa has a great background in both IT research and community relations. She's really figured out a way in her career to marry the technical with the people aspect of things, which I can very much appreciate. She's worked in Washington, D.C. She's been on international commissions. She was selected by the U.S. National Council on U.S. Arab Relations for a trip to the Middle East after 9/11. She was one of the four founders of the Latin American division of Rackspace. And she's a Gallup Strengths certified coach. And now she runs her own company, uh, helping companies foster talent and human resources. And so just check out the bio. It's very impressive and listen, take notes. Uh, she's going to have a lot to share as we explore these three questions from one of our favorite authors. So with that, I'll let you take it away, Marissa.
Thank you so much for that super generous the bio description. And I'm sorry it's so lengthy. I
Don't be
was well
sorry.
trained by my college professors
Mhm.
to be thorough and support my points. But thank you so much, Malcolm, and thank you everyone for being here today, precisely to talk about this amazing book, The Three Questions by Don Miguel Ruiz. I am sharing. I hope everyone can see it. The handout that is also available in the chat room of this Zoom. If you want to download it and have it, it is always my intention that at least in the handout that I give you some sort of cliff notes of the book, just to kind of give you at some point we were just wanted to make sure that we have the main points, that encompass the book so that when you read that, you feel like you know what the book is about. You have a much better idea than just, reading the back of it and reviews online. Instead, read our own executive book review documents and get a good gist of what is the book about. And hopefully and if you participate, even better, I hope you decide to read it and that you carry on these conversations. But in the document, I'm going to be going through a couple of things here and there, but don't feel obligated to pay too much attention to it. You can just follow on the conversation. I am super honored to be part of Executive Book Review that I've been since 2017. It has allowed me to, as a consultant in HR and facilitating workshops in EBR, is where I sharpen my saw and where I do profound reading that really helps me in my business. And for me, this book, The Three Questions, is beyond my entrepreneurship, but it's about how to keep navigating, the times of change. I hope you agree with me that we're going through times of change, and if you watch the news. I hope you don't watch a lot of them, but if you are aware of what's going around in the world, and now with technology, we're hyper connected, right? So we can know information from everywhere at once very quickly. We are living very interesting times, times of change with a lot of things happening. And we live in the digital era. Here we are in Zoom, right? We may not have as much human contact, as interaction, social interaction, as we did when I was born in 1980, in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s, and when we started having flip phones and Nokias and get it into the digital era. And now here we are today. So Ever since I discovered Don Miguel Ruiz, I was probably in college when I heard about the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I read the book and I was blown away with the wisdom that the book had and the book provided. And it's the kind of book that I've done a review here. It's a book that I use to facilitate workshops when groups or teams are going through very difficult crisis times, because it's based on Toltec indigenous wisdom. It's very ancient, and it's just very basic, very elemental. Yet before Don Miguel, my tata, it was content that was very complex to read and to consume, and that you kind of needed a friend who was an anthropologist to and kind of help you process through some of these concepts. But thanks to Don Miguel, these concepts are a lot more tangible. So in this book, we pose the three questions. What's the one thing of the book? Who am I? What is real? And what is love? According to Don Miguel, and I want to give full credit to his co-author, Barbara Emrys, because her voice is definitely in the book, right there, beautifully intertwined with Don Miguel. These questions, and posing ourselves these questions in a deep way, can really help us center ourselves and kind of come back home. This is like an expression that I had never appreciated in that angle as a person whose English is my second language, not my mother tongue. And like, coming home, being home, what does that mean? And in the three benefits that I think we can get from this book, you will recognize the voice of me. The voice of me is a concept that Don Miguel talks about pretty much in every book, which is the chatter. You know, the thoughts, constantly, the mind, constantly describing everything and judging and looking at a picture of you and going, oh my gosh, I'm so fat. That's the voice that I'm talking about, right? The voice of me in answering, who am I, right? The second thing you would distinguish the tyrant. I'm sorry, she said tyrant, and transform it into a diplomat in answering to the question, what is real? So first about recognizing that voice, second about realizing that that voice, it can become a tyrant, is a tyrant for most people. It's a voice that is punishing, and we'll go a little deeper into why. And then the third question is, you will see your own physical body as the love of your life. The love of your life is not your, I'm sorry to break it, but in Toltec tradition, the love of your life is not your partner. It's not your romantic partner. It's not the father of your kids. It's not your parents. It's not your child. I'm sorry, moms. The love of your life is your body, is the body. This, this right here. This body that when I look at a picture of it, I go, you're so fat. Right? I'm always fat shaming this body. And then in the morning I go like, oh my God, oh no, my frownies. Applying castor oil and, and it's, very harsh to the body, right? So that true love of our lives, our true companion from day one to the very last day that we are on this realm, on this world, on this awakened life. This dream, the dream, there's a more appropriate term from the Toltec tradition. This dream is the body, is the most loyal, it's fantastic, and we don't take care of it. We take care more of our pets than we take care of our bodies. We buy better food to our pets than to us sometimes. So thank you for your patience. I'm just like adjusting here my screen. I'm a touch screen. So it's like, wow, now I'm like touching my laptop. So thank you for your patience. So the applications that you might apply, questioning your own personal narrative, and this is a constant in Don Miguel's writings, in The Voice of Knowledge, which I also reviewed, and it's in my YouTube channel. If you want to check it out. But we have the documents of all of our reviews, if I remember correctly. But in The Voice of Knowledge, that book is all about that narrative, that constant chatter. Not only that, but it's also about that narrative of the self, right? Like when we were born and who are our parents, like all the descriptions of this like person that we have created in our minds, and separating the body from the separating the mind from the body. So that's like the first application of this book. The second one is taking ownership of our internal voice and transforming it into a loving ally, right? Where if the mind were to have a good conversation with the body? That's what Don Miguel says. They need to sit down and chat. And what if the voice were the mind were to become a diplomat and be very kind and very loving and very uplifting and very encouraging to the body? What would happen to the body if we were to do that? And the third one, reminding ourselves that respect is what creates peace. Respect is the best part of love, says Miguel Ruiz. The best part of love is respect. So a little bit about the authors here. I'm going to ask someone to read it for me, someone who has a handout handy or who is looking at the screen. Can someone read out loud for the rest of us that just little paragraph of about the authors, Don Miguel Ruiz, please?
I can do.
Awesome. Thank you, Nika. Go for it.
Yeah, so the part about who he is. Don Miguel Ruiz, originally from Mexico and living in California, is international best-selling author of The Four Agreements, over 7 years on the New York Times bestseller list, and my personal list. The Mastery of Love, as a voice of knowledge, and co-author of The Fifth Agreement. He has dedicated his life to sharing the wisdom of the ancient Toltec through his books, lectures, and trips to that word, Mexico. And for his co-author, Barbara Emrith, born in France as the child of an American diplomat, she grew up in parts of Europe, Africa, and the West Indies. She's been Don Miguel's apprentice for 25 years. Her shamanic training and many years of work as a teacher of Toltec dreaming have given her unique insights into human behavior and an artistic approach to life. The two have published several books together, The Toltec Art of Life and Death, and the series The Mystery School.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Spasiba, Nika. Thank you so much for reading it. Diversifying the voice of this Zoom, the voice of this EBR. Thank you so much. Yes, that's a little bit about Don Miguel. And Don Miguel, originally from Mexico, as Nika just told us, had a near-death experience. He's one of the many, many people that has had a near-death experience. He had an accident. Well, he doesn't call it NDE himself, but he had an accident where he almost died, and he was in the hospital for a long time, and he recovered. And then he's a physician. He's an MD. He's a doctor. He's a surgeon. And after his NDE, he stopped practicing as a medical doctor and went back to his indigenous roots. His mother was a curandera, which is a Spanish word for like a healer in the indigenous traditions, in the Toltec indigenous traditions. But he was a modern man, Miguel, Miguel, he was probably born in, I want to say the 50s. So he's not very old at all. And, he was a modern man, when he went to college in the 70s, he was in modern medicine, he was not going to be a curandero de pueblo, so he was going to further himself. So, and he did. And, but then he came back to his indigenous roots and started his, what in English called shamanic kind of formation or training into indigenous wisdom. And Barbara, amazing. Again, both voices intertwined in the books, and that's just a little bit about the authors. But at this point, I would like, with Malcolm's help in creating the breakouts, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I would like for us to jump into our very first breakout session just for a few minutes. Let's do like 8 minutes and break out in three. in groups of 3. And just the question that I have here in the handout is very simple. What brought you to this book review? How have you heard or have you heard or read the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz? And what are you curious about in regards to this particular book? And I'm going to type them in the chat. But if you are ready, Malcolm, if we can break into breakouts of 3 and have just a quick warm up with our lifelong learners very quickly, and we'll come back to the main room. Is that okay?
Yep,
Yes.
here we go.
Okay.
You'll all get
Awesome.
you'll
Thank
all
you
get a
so
little box
much.
to go into your room, and we'll be there for how long did you say?
8 minutes. And
8
in groups
minutes.
of 3, tell us why you come here, what brought you to the review, what have you read, and what are you curious about this book?
Here we go.
Thank you.
And we're back.
And we're back. Thank you so much. Thank you. I love when people come back from the breakout because I can see your faces glow, that you were in contact with fellow humans. I want to take a moment to recognize other important people that are in the Zoom. My friend Noelia Torres, thank you, amiga, so much for making it the morning to my review. So very important people are in Noelia and Lesia. Adriana, my friend Adriana from UTEP. Adriana and Nick is here from UTEP as well. And briefly, I want to mention Benga Sedeco. Thank you, Benga, for connecting today. Also, Benga is from our UTEP times, from student government as well. So, but without further ado, let me resume the book review because time flies when you're having fun. But I want to get into once we have warmed up very well, I want to get into the book and talk more specifically what is this all good stuff about. So, in the first, there's 3 parts of the book. One for each question. And the first question, who am I? I gave you a full page of cliff notes there. The most important part of that, I would say, is the chapter of the voice of me. These 3 questions are, shared in a metaphor as 3 pearls of wisdom. In the beginning and at the end of the book, there is like this story of an older man being helped by a younger man and giving him, instead of money, giving him these 3 pearls of wisdom. So the first pearl is about the question, who am I? And the first thing to become aware of is the voice of me. It says your body is real, but me is fictional. Yet me is running the show. Me isn't a primal thing because we didn't invent a self until we learned a language. Once the voice in our heads loses authority, it turns silent. We can observe events and respond genuinely. Once we stop lying to ourselves, all that is left is truth. All that is left is authenticity, something we lost in our storytelling. So what the authors are telling us is for us to become aware of the narrative, of the personal narrative of, that we were told when we were little kids, when we were all babies are born without the voice of me. And they love openly and freely, and they enjoy their bodies. And when something is not right, they let us know, like they're in connection with the body, and they are in connection with their world. They're in the present moment. They have no recollection of a story of this fictional character, by the name of that's given to them by their parents, And growing up, we are told what we are by our teachers, our siblings, our relatives, everybody in our lives. You're this and you're that, and you're in descriptions, and we start repeating that to ourselves. So what the author suggests is that we use these 3 powerful tools to become aware of the voice of me. Intention, look, listen, observe without judgment. Notice how your emotional responses become more honest without a story, without being so attached to the story of who we think we are. Memory, they talk about memory, very important. We shouldn't be using it to, punish ourselves and suffer again, and remind ourselves of events that brought us a negative emotion. Memory should teach, not torture. It's able to store all the memories of a lifetime in one brain, but that doesn't make those memories real. One of the examples that they share that I think is like mind blowing is it's true. When we're asleep, mostly if you achieve deep sleep, like just last night, just a few hours ago, you were asleep right? Sometimes you sleeping so deeply that, or you are dreaming, or you are vividly dreaming, that when you wake up at first, you don't know where you are. I'm sure that has happened to me many times. Like, where am I? Like, oh, I'm in my house. Yes, I am Marisa. That's right, right? Or like, where am I? Oh, that's right. We travel. We came to this place, you know. And then it takes us a moment to kind of like recollect the whole story, like, recollect the whole story of who we are. And then like, oh yeah, and when we carry on with all those assumptions, right? Versus in the dream world, nothing makes sense because we're dreaming just like we're dreaming here. That's why in Toltec tradition we call it the dream of the planet. Like this is the dream of the planet. This is the domestication of the planet. Those are the social constructs. But it takes us a moment because we have to recollect versus when we're dreaming, gravity doesn't exist, things are crazy, you're in the beach and then you're like flying in the sky. Like in the dream world, it's like there are no laws. There are no conditions. It's just we just float. And it can be so real because I don't know if you have ever waken up from a nightmare or a dream that you're truly disturbed, emotionally, right? Because maybe you were being chased, or I've been shot at dreams. Okay. I have felt the shot in my body in a dream, even though, thank God, I've never been shot in this waking life. I've never touched a gun. In my 44 years of age, I've only seen them on academy. I've never touched a gun, so how can I feel a balazo, a shot in my body? Right? But it felt so real in that dream, and I still remember that dream, right? So, that the authors are posing these questions, are helping us have this conversation with ourselves to really ponder, like, who are you really, right? I mean, because even you grew up in the same house with your same siblings, with the same parents, and then 20 years later, 30 years later, you talk about what happened, and we all remember different things. Like not even that is the same. Not even that is like true, right? So the authors encourage us to use the memory for uplifting things, such as remember, like, oh, I already had this reaction once, and I feel horrible after I react like a gorilla. So I'm not gonna react like a gorilla. I'm gonna take a deep breath and I'm gonna chill because I have memory of last time I lost it and it was awful, right? So memory can be used in that productive way in helping us not react in the same old ways based on those old stories we've been telling ourselves and we tell ourselves on a regular basis. Finally, imagination. We can imagine things we have never tried to imagine. We can doubt what we know and let go of familiar stories. And I get so excited about this because I have experienced this. I have manifested things in my life that I never thought so many years prior by daring to imagine wild things, like the sky's the limit, like as far as what do you want in your life. Don't limit the universe, kind of thing. Like just like dream big. Like there's nothing wrong with doing that, like, oh, but you have to be realistic. What is real? Like actually, one of my graduate school professors, I love that, Dr. Huffer from St. Mary's, used to say, nobody knows enough to be realistic. That is correct. Like, yes. So using imagination to imagine amazing things, right? So in Toltec wisdom, in Toltec tradition, Toltec means artisan, means artist. To be a Tolteca is to be an artist with your life, in which you every day you manifest this beautiful work of art. Your life is a work of art. So all of us are artisans. So how can you use your imagination to continue to imagine beautiful things that you will love, and you're good at? And that's why you love them, because you're good at them, and that virtuous cycle of amazingness. So then the chapter evolves to a very important thing, which is one mind, one community. And this talks this, super powerful. The ways in which we have been governed throughout our lives, families, communities, cities, countries, civilizations, cultures, our minds and bodies are meant to be allies in the quest for a better relationship with life. So I know those two sentences feel like they don't connect. So I promise you they do. One mind, one community talks about how the collective, how we as humans, start, our bodies like to be next to other bodies, like we bodies like to be together, and we get in synchronicity. When women get together, our periods arrive at the same time, right? Because our cycles sync, because we're connected. We are nature. Someone gets sick and all of us get sick, right? So in our minds as well, right? Like we start believing things, and then other people start believing them. We start propagating them with the gift of the spoken word, right? And communication. And we start believing things and we start propagating. So the one mind, one community is to become aware and mindful of that oneness, and how we have to be responsible of the thoughts that we are thinking. Right. So like if you don't want war and violence and aggression in the world, like don't watch it on TV. Like don't watch movies. Don't bring that to the world, right? Like be peaceful. You want peace? Like be peaceful. Like do peaceful things, right? Be still, right? Go fishing. I don't know, garden. There are 10,000 things that, but like to watch things that are peaceful. Like don't feed your mind, with that stuff. And then talk something very important, which, talks about how we run ourselves, because the way that we have run the world. So this is very important. We are born into a family, and in the family there are rules. In all families there are rules, right? And if you follow the rules, you are rewarded with food, with sugar, like whatever you in your family you got rewarded with. But if you don't follow the rules, you're gonna be punished, you know. In that like rewards and punishment way, we do the same in society, right? Like you do good things, we're gonna applaud you, we're gonna give you plaques, we're gonna like get recognized in society. Yeah, but if you do bad things, we're gonna put you in jail, we're gonna punish you, and you're gonna do like hard work, right? Like that's how we governed ourselves, right? Because that's how as humans have governed ourselves in the mind. But that is not, it doesn't work, right? Because we tell these messages to our bodies like, oh, Marisa, you're so fat. You just ate that empanada, and like you're telling yourself all this negativity, or like, oh, you're terrible. Why did you say that? You shouldn't have said that. You're such a bad person. You should be helping so and so. Like we're constantly telling the mind, that comes from supposedly the brain, right? It's like feeding these messages to the body, and the body listens, and the body reacts. So because the body is real, so the body reacts to all these messages. Talks about the mind as government, justice and the judge. It says when the main character, meaning you, right, the voice of you, acts like a big judge, our bodies react in fear. Me is a schoolyard bully in our world, ready to punch and intimidate. All human relationships thrive on mutual respect, whether or not we agree on ideas or not, right? So it brings awareness to this. How are we relating to others? Like, are we conditioning our love to like, I'm just gonna be your friend when you do what I tell you to do, right? Like, I'm gonna love you as a mother when you obey me, right? So it kind of like this chapter, in my opinion, is probably the most important, because it's really the foundation that connects to the other two questions and the rest of the process, in which we become aware of the commander in chief, the mind, and the story and the narrative and the message that we keep repeating to ourselves. It says, you're not your body, but you are the guardian of its welfare and integrity. You are not your mind, but you're responsible for the message it delivers to and through your body and to the rest of humanity. The one you call me is not real, but it affects real things. Rather than perceiving the truth, most of us yield to that inner voice. We listen to our own thoughts, we believe them and obey them at the expense of our happiness. So what if, no, if what we call reality is virtual and me is not real, then what about the world around us? What else isn't actually real? So at this point, I would like for us to have another breakout. And I'm look at the time, but very brief. We're gonna do like a 5 minute breakout. Also in we should do the same teams, Malcolm, if that's okay. Let's do the same team so that we can kind of carry on with the conversation and just share. I have here which of the concepts sharing the first part of the book resonated the most with you and why. Just like any thoughts, like just bounce your thoughts so far with your peers to come back to the main room and continue. Is that cool?
That's fine. Although it shuffled.
It did
So
shuffle, no problem, no problem.
yeah,
I
so
was just,
you'll have new groups this time, but I can have it not shuffle next time.
it's
And then
okay. Yes,
how
thank
long
you.
did you say?
Let's just 5 minutes, super
5.
brief, 5 minutes and come back.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you, thank you. Here on my multiple windows. Thank you, thank you. Malcolm, I want to double check in this interest of time. Do we finish right at 9?
Oh no, you've got till
Okay.
9:15.
Okay, yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Forgive my unawareness. Time is another social construct. That's what I tell people when they get frustrated at my lack of keeping track of time. Sometimes I struggle to do that. So thank you so much. It's again awesome to see the glow on your faces when we come back from connecting. I mean, I want to open it to the room super quickly. Does anyone would like to share anything in the collective here in the main room? Anything interesting or any question that had transpired in your conversation?
I'll share something really quick. I was just telling the group that one of my friends recently reminded me with my strong-minded political views that there's experiences that bring us, each of us, to make the choices that we make.
Yes.
And it's kind of the same thing with how you were talking about people living in the same house, and having different perceptions. Same thing. Just we all live in the same world. We all live in the same country, but we might have different perceptions of why we make the choices we make politically. And I think it's really helped me bring peace into my life to accept that and just kind of allow my choice to be my choice with my experience, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense. Thank you so much, Adriana. Absolutely. Yes, this is all. I appreciate you saying this and sharing this, Adriana, because yes, we are living very, some people would say turbulent times, depends who you ask. Some other people are going to say, oh, this is awesome. Like this finally. I mean, there are so many different angles, perceptions to life. And that is exactly what the authors claim. I love this in this book is that perfect segue, Adriana, to the second part of the book, asking ourselves, what is real? What is real, right? There is life, there is truth, and there are different angles of truth. But truth is, that's why reality, thinking about what's real is very important, is the second pearl of this book. If you acknowledge that your mind is a mirror reflection of what is real and not a very accurate one, you can see that yours is only one interpretation of reality, one of more than 7 billion individual interpretations, 7 billion humans, 7 billion souls on earth. Not thinking much, you'll bring yourself much closer to answering the question, what is real? By perceiving without thinking, you'll notice what isn't real now and never was. Our sense of reality starts to shift when we question what we believe. Boom. Actually, I want to take a deep breath, like, and exhale. Yes, like by perceiving without thinking, by being present. That's what it is, with the breath and being aware of my thoughts that are telling me right as soon as this finishes, you got to do this, you got to do that. So mine, right? To start to distinguish that. So then the chapter evolves into life under tyranny. All right. So this is very important. This is kind of like where the authors explain how we live in a personal tyranny because the mind is constantly, scolding the self. Right? It's a constant scolding. Our internal private tyranny is growing to public because we start with the self and we're, me, the voice of me is so harsh with the self. That's how we are with others. And this, you have no choice but to confront when you become a parent. Right, that inner voice, right, becomes the way you parent, you talk to your children, right? And soon family members are fighting, friends fall out, and entire communities are in conflict. The body notices and responds to our tyrannies because the body is real, right? Um, the way it would respond to physical threats. So the body doesn't know if you're watching a terror movie, okay, and doing that to your body by watching that, right? Or if actually you are in a real place where the guy chasing you with the, whatever, motor saw, whatever, Texas Massacre, whatever. I don't watch mainstream since 2012, so I'm like I'm in my own bubble. I'm super disconnected from like mainstream. But you know what I'm talking about, right? Like the body doesn't know if you are watching it in a movie or if you are for reals, burying your parents, or you're really, burying your child. Like stop imagining things that are never gonna happen, and having emotion and doing that to the body, having emotional reactions. Self-judgment is an assault. Yes. And so is self-contempt. It's an attack on the body to pity ourselves, to worry, or to obsess. Ooh, yes, to obsess. Each of us needs to be a peacekeeper, not a tyrant. We want to be conscious guardians of freedom for the human body we occupy. The conscious guardians of freedom for the body we occupy. We are adults now whose parents or siblings should no longer run our lives. Many of us are parents and grandparents. We are in charge of our actions and reactions. We're capable leaders in our own right. So yeah, it's the voice. It's the voice of you that's telling you that you don't have the approval of your parents or you don't have the approval of your siblings, and stop suffering about that, right? I follow a YouTuber that she says when we're meditating, like, remind yourself how old you are. Like, I don't like to think about that because there's a social construct about aging, right? And I'm being a woman over 40, right? That I don't like. But yeah, but then I go, heck yes, I'm 44. Like, I'm not a scared 16-year-old. I'm not. I have the wrinkles to prove it. So getting out of jail, we all remember what it was like to be a teenager, sick of the indignities of childhood. We wanted to break away from our parents. We wanted to escape the prison of home and family. Oppression exists. Yeah, but most people are oppressed by their own stories and fears. Tyranny starts with us and with that little government in our heads. We can each repeal our own laws and reform our own personal justice system. We can break out of jail free at any time. Free at any time. I love it. And then it talks about transitioning that voice, right? Because from a tyrant to a diplomat, When the relationship between me and the body works well, all of our relationships improve. Awareness and authenticity are a natural result of having a mind that respectfully communicates with the body, so the body can better commune with life. The words can be impeccable ambassadors. Being impeccable with the word is the first agreement of the four agreements, right? Being impeccable with the word and starts with a word to ourselves, to what we tell ourselves, right? So your words can be impeccable ambassadors representing truth and intent, starting with the words you think, the beautiful words you think. Respect is a solution to humanity's problems, from global unrest to playground scuffles, to the delicate balance of power that exists in our own minds. Respect. Respect opens the door to cooperation and understanding in any culture. Respect means we honor everyone's right to exist. Respect is the best part of love. No problem, Nika. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. So yes, we can transform the tyrant into a diplomat, starting to talk, changing the voice of me to a diplomat, respectful at all times, respectful with the body, respectful with everybody else, and transform into peace and sanity. Desire leads to energy. Energy leads to passion. Passion leads to inspiration, inspire in spirit. And inspiration leads to creativity. Inspiration leads us to create new things and realities. But obsession leads to many types of destruction. Desire can also bring peace and sanity. Most of humanity is driving under the influence of one superstition or another. So let's think about that. Let's think about what superstitions do we still allow to govern ourselves, and therefore how we govern our kids, if you have young kids or adult kids that you want them to obey you, right? Or the businesses you run, the team you manage, your leadership in your life, everything, the group that you direct in school, your leadership, right? Respect. It says, most of humanity is driving under the influence of one superstition or another. Listen, pay attention, observe. Say no to thoughts that make you crazy. The storyteller is someone you invented. So it's not real. You can ask, like, the person you think is the love of your life, your husband, your wife of 60 years. Tell her to describe you, and it's not the same as you would describe yourself. So I was right and I was wrong. Right? So the storyteller is not real. We're not going to go, if that's okay with you, I'm going to skip the next breakout because we have just more 15 minutes, just, another set of 15 minutes, if that's okay with you. Because I really want us to kind of like go to the last part of the book and then open it up to the collective to ask questions and thoughts before we wrap up, to be respectful of everyone's time. And of course, if you have to disconnect because it's 9 o'clock, no problem at all. Thank you for joining us. But if you can hang out for another 15 minutes, thank you as well. So the third question, the third pearl is asking ourselves, what is love? What is love? Love is life energy, creating more life all the time and in infinite ways. Emotion is the energy that our bodies create, and love is the sum of all those emotions. Love is energy and it has no agenda. No limits or conditions. It can be transformed but never destroyed. Unconditional love comes naturally to babies and animals because there are no terms or conditions. Right? Babies don't expect anything. The kitten, they are connected to their body, so they're expressed when they're hungry. When they're in discomfort, they will express that, but they love unconditionally. Anyone who smiles at a baby, The baby's like, I love you too. Yeah, it's so great to be alive. Yay. Right? That is love. That is love. Real love starts with us. It's never too late to discover the power of it in ourselves, to ask the question, what is love? And open our senses to the answer. It has nothing to do with vanity or self-importance. So I know that your souls that are listening to me know what I'm talking about when I say, like, what is love? And for me, it's the easiest way to remind myself is when I think of babies. I think, when I was pregnant and I already loved that child. How can that be? Right? And that child was born and I loved, and before that, when my first niece, when the daughter of my brother was born, I felt an immense love for this baby I had never seen in my life that just came out of my sister-in-law. You know, I couldn't explain it. Or animals, or nature. I think it's so gorgeous. I love it so much. It's almost so peaceful. It's so gorgeous. I can't stop looking at it. What is love? We all feel love. We know what it is. So in this chapter, the authors transition back into reminding us that the love, what is love? The love of our lives, which is the body, which we have talked about quite a bit. Is your true love, your physical body. It has and always been your true love. There is no more loyal friend or nor intimate partner. The body is our true love. And then lovers and sweethearts. Self-love is romantic love. Yeah. Let your body experience all the beauty and wonder around you. Loving ourselves is difficult when we don't love ourselves. Loving others, I'm sorry. Loving others is difficult when we don't love ourselves. Me, the mind, the voice of me, needs to say kind words here and there to the body. The body yearns for tender sounds and intimate assurances, not just from a partner outside of us, but from the voice of me as well. Right? The body's most important relationship is with life, not with your nagging thoughts. I love it. Relationship with life, not with nagging thoughts. Your body is a perfect merging of matter and energy. It is the most real thing you know. Lovemaking with another human being is also an act of self-love, giving your body what it needs and enjoys. Unconditional love for ourselves is the definition of paradise. It is returning to the place we only knew in infancy. Paradise is home. Like to feel at home is to feel at home in our own bodies. It's not a location. It's not the house where you grew up. Many people don't have that. Many people grew up in a lot of homes, in a lot of parts of the world, in a lot of parts of the US. Home is not a physical, it's not a geographic place. Home is the body. This is home. And being at peace and in love with the body as we were with babies, like when we were babies, and 2 and 3. And actually, for many of us, it lasted a few more years until we started learning these social constructs that, at least for girls, that we had to be pretty. And like beauty was defined by certain physical characteristics. Right. And as we saw ourselves in the mirror and I don't meet that criteria. I don't look like Britney Spears. I'm not pretty, then that in puberty and adolescence, that's why, like, part of what's difficult with adolescence, and this is from another book of Don Miguel, is because then the voice of me is no longer satisfied with the self, not just with things outside of them. But as we are children, we usually don't have a lot of problem with the body. We we're connected to it, we answer to its needs, like, I'm hungry, I'm tired, right? And we're like, no, I don't want to go to school, I'm tired, right? Like, I want to sleep, right? We're connected to the body, but we start disconnecting as we are trained in the domestication of the planet, in the dream of the planet. And then at some point we realize we don't fit the standard of mainstream culture, so we don't like our bodies anymore, right? Love our humanity. Throughout the ages, the most authentic humans have left the brightest legacies. The most authentic humans. The solution to all conflict is respect. Respect means you honor the right of every country or body to exist, beginning with your own. Denouncing me as an illusion is an act of a spiritual master. And you can think of, Buddha, and you can think of Jesus, if you're open to see that interpretation. Fear and knowledge. We hold on to fear for many reasons. We hold on to old beliefs because we become comfortable. When we blame events, people, or God for our problems, we are playing the role of a victim. The thing people call heartbreak is the result of a head-on collision with truth. Right? Why is losing someone such a heartbreak? Because we live in a world when we assume that we're going to live forever. We don't talk about death unless it's Dia de Muertos, and we play Coco and have altars, but we don't really it's a taboo in the mainstream society to talk about our death or how do we manage death right? So when we lose someone, it's such a heartbreak because head-on collision with truth. Oh, only the body is real. Everything else is a lie, right? Peace in our times. Peace means freedom from disturbance, right? The peace we create in our time, in our universe, has a lasting influence. I don't know, the phrase, I don't know, is a game changer. Just questioning, I don't know, right? The mind is not the boss of anything. Let life take over from here. Animals and trees don't hide behind the story. Life rules the oceans and mountain ranges. Our thoughts don't. Our thoughts and prayers don't. Having already recognized what we are not, we can live each moment as truth, as energy. We can perceive as life perceives, enjoying all points of view. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the amazing 3 questions, How to Discover and Master the Power Within You by Tata Don Miguel Ruiz and fantastic Barbara Emrys. And I hope you enjoyed it. So thank you so much. What thoughts? I want to open it up in the last few minutes to any thoughts, questions, comments that you have before we officially wrap it up.